We were poorer than poor. Me and my father in a wee flat in the West End. You know, they were some of the best days of my life. Well, hello and welcome in to Is It Entertainment News? It's Monday, I think it is Entertainment News. I'm your host, John C. Walsh. The C doesn't stand for Cecil, despite what my sister used to say back in the day. To my left is my co-host for this evening, this night, isn't Stephen John McLaughlin. I was going to say this night, and then I was immediately confronted by the Beatles singing This Boy and saying This Boy, That Boy, That Boy. Happens to the best of them. If it can happen to John Lennon, then it can happen to me. I am but a mere mortal. But Stephen, we're going to be discussing a couple of topics on the Stream Stroke show tonight. I don't know what you want to do first. The headline we've went with is obviously SNL 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. Kind of would make sense to start with that because it is the fucking headline after all. And it kind of just blends on from what we were discussing on the Friday there, or the Saturday, sorry, 2 days ago. In regards to obviously comedy, the genre of comedy and the death of the comedy genre. And just can we see a renaissance? And just discussing at large and at length all the great comedy acts, artists, actors, thespians, whatever adjective you want to use, films that came 20, 30, 40 years ago, the likes of Adam Sandler. I think we discussed Steve Martin. I think we did. Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, guys like that. Your man, something Nielsen, I always forget his name.
Leslie Nielsen.
And obviously Adam Sandler's been out, so it kind of blends into it. And we get to see all of these great comedic acts from a bygone era lighting up the screen.
Both you and I are massive fans of Adam Sandler and have been for a long time now. Good 30 years now, I would say. Although, based in the UK, we weren't privileged to see Adam Sandler in his heyday on this show. In fact, it was very rarely we got access to Saturday Night Live here in the UK until satellite TV came along in the late 80s. But, John, it's one of those things that I didn't know was happening. I should say I didn't know it was happening, over the last 24 hours, this thing. Obviously, we reacted to the Saturday night trailer reaction just before Christmas time, and we knew an anniversary was coming up for this. But I didn't know this was all happening over the last 24 hours, and bit by bit, over the last 12 hours or so, YouTube, the channel, Saturday Night Live has been sort of dropping clips all over the place, and I have watched a few, but there's so many of them I've not caught up yet. But this is the one that sort of caught my eye because, as I said, both you and I are Adam Sandler fans. It was on the algorithm, and that's how it was flagged up to me. And I watched the performance. I think it was just over 5 minutes. This song went on for, and it was fantastic, really fantastic.
Stephen, again, it plays into Adam Sandler as this all-consuming sort of comedic force and just artist in general. The guy can act, he can write, he can direct, he can sing, he can do everything. He's a really talented individual. I think a lot of people look at Adam Sandler and they think of the likes of Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, The Waterboy, all these classic films, Wedding Singer and whatnot, and they think, he's just this sort of jocular figure. That's all he can do. The guy can do drama, he can do everything, and we've seen in The Wedding Singer that he can sing very fucking well, not just sing, but an actual musician. He can perform on an actual instrument while singing, something I've never been able to do. I can play the guitar to a reasonable level, but I certainly can't multitask and sing or even talk. As I found out last night, I was trying to have a conversation whilst playing REM on my guitar.
Yes, with any artist out there who's the lead guitarist and the singer, i.e. James Dean Bradfield from the Manic Street Preachers.
Rivers Cuomo.
I think perhaps maybe it's a Gibson Les Paul he plays, is it? I can't remember. But he sings and he plays lead guitar as well. And like you said with Adam Sandler, it's a very hard thing to do. You've got to appreciate the sort of, especially if it's an acoustic guitar, because it's a bit more complex. You're not relying on distortion and heavy effects or anything like that. What you play is what you hear, and that's it. And
it's more
this song, it was very folk rockish. I felt.
Yeah, I was getting Bob Dylan kind of vibes,
Dylan
yeah.
kind of sang, and I could have got away with it, but it was really heartfelt. And I know, obviously, we talked about comedy as a genre in terms of film and where it's going, but I suppose Adam Sandler did tip his hat to the original cast members, the Dan Aykroyds, John Belushi, Chevy Chase, etc. And
these are titans.
Yeah,
Comedic titans.
It all started, and Lorne Michaels obviously was the creator of this, and Steve
He
Martin
had a couple of jokes
Martin.
at Lorne, didn't he? Basically, be the babysitter. I can't remember the exact reference, but talking about the kid or something of Spielberg, of Martin Scorsese, of anyone that Lorne had a meal with on a Thursday night or something. It's just great, really brilliant wordplay and brilliant knowledge of the show over the last 50 years. Obviously, he has been involved in it, inside, behind the sort of curtain. It was just a really brilliant, put together performance. It was funny, it was kind of poignant.
I suppose if you've watched the Saturday night film, you'll get an insight to what it was like behind the scenes.
Have you seen it, Stephen?
I've not seen it yet, Kevin.
I need to watch it.
I think that song kind of encapsulated it all in terms of the sort of stress levels, before they were going on set, and everyone that worked behind the scenes that probably should deserve a mention. That Adam Sandler, I think he mentioned a couple of people that have been there since the beginning and were there when he was there as well. And it was just great. It was just obviously the Chris Farley, Norm MacDonald bit, I suppose, was the bit that most people were waiting for, because Adam Sandler was so close to both of them. I think both of them actually appeared in Billy Madison at some point, but in terms of off screen, he was very good friends with them, and they're sadly missed, John. People that come around once in a lifetime, and there's no one like them before, and there's no one like them ever since. Forces of nature.
I mean, I was well aware of Chris growing up, and obviously of his films. Not as well versed in the Saturday Night Live stuff. Norm is one of my biggest regrets in terms of comedic talent, and me completely missing him. Obviously, knew of him from Billy Madison, didn't really know of him as in knowing of him, but knew he was in the film. It wasn't until he'd passed away that I became fully aware of just how funny the guy actually was, and I went down a rabbit hole watching all these sort of compilations and jokes. Incredibly funny guy, and just did not give a shit. And what made it more funny about him was obviously the tragedy of the guy fighting, I believe it was cancer. And I don't know if it was throat or whatever, I can't remember what cancer he had that obviously passed away from, but just the fact that he was gaining weight probably through obviously the stuff he was doing, the chemo and whatnot, and medication he was taking, but openly admitting he was loving food and eating food and not giving a shit. Because when you look at the thumbnail that I've put up, you look at Norm from way back in the 90s when he was taking pot shot after pot shot at O.J. Simpson, to the point where they were telling him, look, if you do this again, we're going to have to let you go. And he just continued fucking doing it because he didn't care. And I think he was right, to be fair. I think history will see that he was right. He was very skinny back in those days. Really skinny. So he put so much weight on at the end, and he just would take the piss out of himself, eating KFC buckets and just not giving a shit. Incredibly funny guy, and one of my biggest sort of regrets that I never got to be aware of him as a comedic force. I don't think he was touring doing like stand-up stuff in these later stages, so I would never have been able to see him live or anything, but
he was always
what a guy.
He was always aware, John, of his content, and he knew the impact it would have the minute it left his mouth. He saw that in his facial reactions. And it was something that I liked about him. I love that voice of his as well.
He's got that glint in his eye.
I sounded like Keith Richards there a little bit, but I was trying to impersonate.
When I've got a cold, I sound like Keith when I laugh. It's like... Wouldn't let that family name me with a sharp stick like on a sword. I mean, we're from London School of Economics, not one for the upper crust.
Chris Farley was just a force of nature. Just everything he was
fucking
in.
God.
Absolutely wet myself laughing. Just this guy was just
Just
funny.
sheer energy.
I think Tommy Boy was one of the sort of first films I saw. I saw him in Billy Madison, obviously. I think the bus driver eating all the kids' sandwiches,
Yeah.
but
Talk
I
about
think
laughing.
Tommy Boy was the one I thought was really good. Beverly Hills Ninja as well
Yeah.
was another great film. He bit parts in the likes of Wayne's World, and that was the sort of Saturday Night Live people again, obviously. Mike Myers, in the crew. But I think, and Lord Michaels was obviously, I think, one of the producers on Wayne's World.
That's
So
the importance of that show, though, Stephen, that sort of Saturday Night Live scene. People now obviously take pot shots at it and say it's not what it was, and that's probably the case, because comedy, as we discussed the other day, has had to evolve in a new era, and people are a lot more easily offended now. You've got social media, really tribalistic political stuff going on everywhere, but certainly in America. And I feel like the writer's room is a lot more aware of jokes and having to walk a very particular line in case they get either cancelled or maybe the fucking government comes after them, with Trump now being in charge, because let's be honest, he's going after everyone at the moment. So it's a difficult place to be. So it probably isn't what it was, but it's such an influential...
You're seeing that knock-on effect in The Simpsons, etc., the writing team in The Simpsons, and even the voice actors as well are, obviously talking about AI replacement for certain people and stuff. But it's a sad state of affairs, and this anniversary kind of reflects that as well, exactly what we're talking about on Saturday night as well, in terms of where comedy is now. Certainly we were more focused on talking about film, but certainly in stand-up as well. It's a different thing. Netflix takes credit, has some great stand-up shows on there, and obviously contracts with some of the biggest names. And I think that's where its place is now. It's the stuff that you're seeing on council TV, as we call it here, is very broad, isn't it? When you look at the likes of Michael McIntyre and all that.
You fucking hate him, don't you?
I just don't find him funny, John. I don't find him funny one bit.
Michael McIntyre.
There's only a handful of comedians I do,
Who's the other guy? He's got the mental laugh. Ho, 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 ho! Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr.
That's really good. But Michael McIntyre, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get him either, I'm not going to lie. But that's what comedy's all about. It's a very Marmite thing with certain acts. I mean, off the top of my head, guys that I think of over here, obviously Frankie Boyle, Kevin Bridges, Billy Connolly back in the day, absolute genius, one of the greatest stand-up comedians to ever live, not just from Britain or Scotland, but from the entire planet Earth as a whole. The other guys that I'm drawn to, really funny people, obviously the late great Sean Locke. There's other examples, Mancunian guy, he's from that region, did the infamous Kent joke, he's brilliant.
Lee Mack,
I didn't even hear this, sorry Stephen. They are the guys I think of, the sweaty geezer, blank on his name. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Lee Evans.
Lee Evans, I fucking loved Lee Evans back in the day. His sweats bucket
loads. Lee Evans is actually retired now.
Is he retired?
Quite a while ago, but I think types of like Conan O'Brien, who was also a writer on The Simpsons, and a great comedian, but also a great comedic writer. Has found his place on his own podcast now, and you see these funny people sort of shifting their sort of comfort zone into different things now. We've seen it with Adam Sandler. We talked about this on Saturday night, in terms of he's doing more sort of drama-driven films, and he's doing, even his comedies are a little bit more romantic comedy. He's always been doing things like that, but I think they're more romantic comedy rather than comedy romantic. And Eddie Murphy's the same, it's just, these guys don't have to work, they do it because it's a passion. That's what they were brought into the world to do, to make people laugh, and I think it's just stifling for them now.
Eddie's, for me, the greatest of all time, honestly, back in the 80s. Not that I was aware back in the 80s, I was born in 89, but looking back, just incredible. His outfits, the purple sort of leather jumpsuit jacket thing, talking about... his mother making the home burgers, and he's outside watching the kids running about with McDonald's. We've got McDonald's, and he's like, "What are you doing with the this bread? Where's the buns? That's what you've got. That's all we'll do with what we've got." Putting the green peppers through, and they're sticking out the grease. Fucking hilarious, because it's so relatable. Because that's the type of stuff that happened even in my sort of youth. You would get like family versions of takeaways, homemade versions, and they were never the same. And you always felt that banging, that longing for a McDonald's or something. So I love shit like that. And he was dynamite. And even growing up watching his films, I was obsessed with Eddie. So for Eddie, for me, is always going to have a special place in my heart. But Stephen, just discussing this Saturday Night Live sort of episode, I've not seen the whole thing. But again, you do see that there's still a pull with this show, because we've got Pedro Pascal, Woody Harrelson in there, Paul McCartney, I believe, turned up, Sabrina Carpenter, Paul Simon, Adam Sandler, Steve Martin, Martin Short. A lot of big names from the past, from the present, popping up on the show. But I did find Steve Martin's monologue, the opening monologue, to be quite interesting, because again, it kind of taps into what we were discussing the other night. Very funny monologue. It had some hits and some misses, as they all do. You're not going to cater to everyone. As long as you've got a broad brush and you cater to the majority, everyone gets something out of it, that's fine. But he did make a remark at the end of it, which I found to be quite prescient, is that the word I'm looking for? When he says that, and to the audience who didn't like the monologue, maybe you should look at yourself and wonder where you've went wrong in your life, that you've lost all semblance of joy, and maybe think about how you can do better next time as an audience member watching the monologue on Saturday Night Live. But it's true, he's joking, but it is true. I think the world is such a joyless fucking hellhole of a place now, with all the wars and all the... I don't know.
Social media has a lot to do with it. Yeah.
It's just a really cynical place now. And I think a lot of that joy has been ripped out, and it's why we get back, and I never really discussed this the other day in regards to comedy movies and why these great movies worked back in the day and why they don't work now. And they try to do sequels to them and they never hit off. And it's not just comedy, but action from the 80s. And it's why I don't want to see the Back to the Future franchise ever touched again. No reboots, nothing. They just don't work in the modern era because people are wired differently. They're totally lacking in patience and concentration, everything. They're totally different beasts to what they were 20, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. I think people were a lot simpler back in the day because they didn't have access to everything that people have got now. We've got so much, but we're fucking
very simple people. Yeah.
But it's not in simple as in, oh, he's fucking stupid. This guy's got a mental deficiency, or women's got a mental deficiency. But they had less. There wasn't as much artificial connection in terms of the internet, social media, having phones in your hand, 24/7 connected. But what they made up for was community and interaction and being able to speak with their tongue and genuine joy watching things and appreciating things.
I was brought up on Cannonball and Little and Large, all that, you know. Yeah. And some of it was so silly, it was funny. But yeah, I mean, now it's dated humour, and I think that's one of the things we talked about on Saturday night was obviously humour. It evolves, it does evolve. It becomes more sophisticated as well to certain people, and I think there was a shift, I don't know, around about maybe the early 2000s where satire was creeping in a little bit more than it used to, and it was becoming a little bit more sort of mainstream in certain sitcoms and definitely in stand-up as well.
In the Middle East. And George Bush and Tony Blair and whatnot. I think that shaped a lot of it, didn't it? When you seen the massacre of people.
It's not a new thing or anything like that. I'm not saying that, but you know, both you and I were big fans of the Day to Day, which was out in the early to mid 90s with Chris Morris and Steve Coogan and Armando Iannucci, etc.
Brilliant.
A great cast, very talented writers, and it was ahead of its time as well. I think there's something. I think there was something before that. It was very similar, but that was the one that stood out to me, and it was fantastic. It was just something different, something new, and that was something that I always looked at. You know, growing up was alternative comedy.
Take the piss out of the sort of news cycle.
BBC Two was very good for that, and Channel 4. You had the young ones, you had Bottom, and you had not the 9 o'clock news, etc. You know, growing up, it was away from the sort of mainstream Allo and Dad's Army and all that kind of stuff, and it was fantastic stuff, and it was young, upcoming comedians.
That's the key.
Ben
Steve.
Elton, Adrian Edmondson, Rick Mail. You know, and
Rick Mail,
it was just fantastic. Comic Strip Presents, a great series. You know, and it's just, as you said, there's nothing like that now. You know, there was a period in the sort of mid 2000s.
Not on mainstream TV.
Comedies were very similar. You had the Mitchell and Webb. I'm not saying these are bad
Peep
comedies,
Show.
by the way. I've got to make that clear right away. You had the Mighty Bush and all these sort of obscure comedies, if you like.
Russell Brand doing his thing.
Were a bit more educated in the way they were presented and constructed. It wasn't anarchy like you had in the 80s. So it's definitely changed, and it will keep changing. But at this point, I just can't see anything out there. You know,
there was really a lot of rebelliousness though in the 80s, wasn't there, because of Thatcher in Britain and whatnot, and obviously over in the States it would have been less so with Reagan, I would imagine. But there was a lot of bitterness about closing down traditional, I don't know what you'd call it, working environments, the mining and the sort of industries and whatnot. The solid working class base were getting hammered, and a lot of young disenfranchised people were coming up and taking pot shots at the establishment. That reflected itself in comedy and in TV, with Auf saying whatnot, them having to go over to Germany to work because they couldn't get fucking work here. Obviously in music with the Smiths and whatnot and the punk scene.
Get back to that. I mean, that was a sort of another great writing team. Ian really reflected and Clement, who did the lads prior to LBC, and they wrote that film Still Crazy as well, which starred Tim Facebarrow and Jimmy Neal and a few other names. And it was that well written. You've watched LBC, John, so I don't have to educate you on that. You very much enjoyed it, and it was a character study. They really did delve into these individuals and gave them
from all
individual
over Britain. Totally different personalities from different areas. Birmingham, Newcastle, fucking London, all come together from different walks of life, and they've got the same sort of common cause, try to get out and earn money, earn a living.
You're right, that's absolutely right. It was to do with the social impact on people's lives at the time, and Boys from the Black Stuff was another one, which was a fantastic series, a very dark comedy. Dark comedy is a thing that you don't hear of now, isn't it? It's something that people don't really want to touch, or they don't want to do, and it's certainly, and I think in this day and age,
people are comfortable now, Stephen. That's why
people need.
It's a comfortable existence now. It's not like that. There has been issues with financial crashes and other things, but in the main, people are a lot more comfortable now than they were back in the day, and that reflects on lifestyle and experiences and what you get out of it. If you've lived a comfortable, pretty carefree existence, certainly in the West, developed nations, that's not a good breeding ground for sort of rebellious, fucking hard-hitting comedy or TV or whatnot. That's why you get these beige sort of artistic outputs that you're getting now. I mean, there's very few directors in film now that I could say are genuinely fucking...
Back in the early 2000s, and with season 3, the one with Bill Nye, which was fantastic. It was but they knew they had to evolve that. They had to evolve the characters to a point where it was realistic. They had to understand that we have to make this as realistic as possible, but it's not the 1980s anymore. And I think there was a line from Tim Haley, who said it to Kevin Whately about, I've got artist hands, talking about bricklaying. He says, where am I now? Everybody and their granny basically is throwing up houses at the weekend. DIY freaks, they called them, are throwing up houses over the weekend now, flat pack homes. And Kevin Whately's character Neville says that, the world's moved on, Dennis, deal with it, and it was just that line that made it acceptable, made it believable, that these characters, although could look back in their past, knew they had to move and evolve forward into the modern world. And it worked. It did work to an extent. A lot of people didn't like it, but I understood what they were trying to do. And that's the thing about comedy. It has to move with the times. And some people, and you said yourself, John, in terms of class system, people are more comfortable now. So you can't really do the same comedies. You wouldn't want to do the same comedies anyway.
Certainly the young generation that are coming up, who are going to shape the future of comedy, of these sort of artistic mediums, They've not had the harsh in the main. I'm not saying everyone. Some people have really hard lives when they're young and they have to come through it. And that's usually the most driven and successful people because they've had nothing and they have to fight tooth and nail to get it. But in the main, people are much more comfortable now. And that's why it's reflected. You've not got your Rick Mayles and guys like that coming through in Britain now. There's very few stand-up acts or comedic sort of actors in Britain. I can think of. Frankie Boyle's the only guy of the last 20 years, maybe Kevin Bridges, who are massive, who have came from a probably working-class Glaswegian, Scottish background, and they just don't give a fuck, hard-hitting right in there.
I think the last sort of...
they're not young, though.
Sitcoms that I think worked really well was the likes of Still Game, you know, and
in Scotland,
it was still that traditional sitcom. It was very much like what came after Rhapsody Nisbet, you know, in terms of just Glasgow people and you know, and their lives and the funny things that happen in their lives and these colourful characters. But and the sort of flip side of that, you get Mrs. Brown's Boys, which is very broad comedy. A lot of people like it, and a lot of people don't like it. As you said, it's very man-like done. I don't like it. Not my type. Too broad for me. It's very when the whistle blows. Yeah. And I don't really, not my cup of tea.
But again, getting back to Saturday Night Live, man, and the sort of American side of that, you see that with Adam. I mean, I'm sure when he came through, it would have been late 80s, going into 90s. Same with Jim Carrey. These were probably, I presume, I don't know enough about Adam in terms of his personal background and Jim. Well, I know more about Jim. He came up in Canada with a not well-off family, I want to say. And again, he had to go through adversity, try to make it, and then try to gain acceptance as an actor. We've heard about the Deadpool, obviously, working with Clint Eastwood and getting laughed at for his very physical acting and trying to make his way. We know that he had to fight through adversity and how that shaped someone, and obviously life experiences. I'm sure it's the same with the likes of Adam Sandler, getting back even further, the 70s and whatnot, with Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, going into the 80s. These are guys that had to live very different lives to what people are living now. And I just find it interesting. I know it's a 50th anniversary show, but there's not, you've got the current day cast, obviously, but they're going back to Martin Short, Steve Martin, Adam Sandler, guys from way back, which is fucking the whole point. That's what you do with these things. But none of the current cast are anywhere near. I'm sorry. When I think of Saturday Night Live now, I have to go back to the last election in America. Not that one, the other one prior, with Alec Baldwin, Jim Carrey, doing the sort of presidential debates and whatnot. That's where they really excel. When they get people in and it's like hard-hitting political stuff and they're making a joke out of it. I don't think they did. I don't know if they did that recently.
No, I don't. It kind of emphasises what we're talking about. That everything's so sacred, you know, and you don't want to offend. And I think because of the sort of toxicity as well, in terms of that election, John, and prior to it, even the last election was toxic. It's got to the point where people are so far one way and far the other, and there's no humour. There's nothing. There's no middle ground for humour anymore. You know, and it's a sad state of affairs. But it's good that they've honoured this. They've made this landmark. 50 years, John. It's a long time.
Oh, yeah.
You think about 1975. Lorne Michaels took this idea with a bunch of fresh-faced comedians that weren't household names at the time, but they were brave people. They really were when you think about it. You know, nothing like this had been done before. And you've seen the likes of Chevy Chase, what he went on to be after that. Just hit after hit in terms of films, and you stand up. Another guy that's just quick talking, hard hitting, very, very funny. And Bill Murray, another one.
Yeah.
Incredible people.
But you think of the 70s as well in terms of film. And it was a breeding ground, America, for these sort of new generations of people coming up and casting aside the old sort of traditions, be it comedy or film. You think of the directors in the mid-70s, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Francis Ford Coppola, guys like that coming through and shaking it up and doing radical things. I'd imagine Kubrick to an extent. Don't know if he was the 60s. I think he was hanging about in the 60s, wasn't he? Because he did 2001 A Space Odyssey. I want to say that was in the 60s. Because it was round about the moon landing, and there was a lot of speculation he was involved in faking the moon landing, because it was that realistic. But the sort of new generation, it's quite funny that it kind of matched. And then music, as we discussed earlier, obviously with the punk scene and whatnot coming through, and a lot of new, younger acts. So that was an interesting time. Sorry, I totally missed what you said there.
What generation was that?
That would have been the boomers, I would imagine. Wouldn't it? That would be boomers. If they would have come to age stroke early 20s in the 70s, then they would have been born 50s, 40s.
1950s.
Yeah, that would have been boomers, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Boomers and then
a lot comes out from that, John, and I think that's a lot of people's upbringing. And we've seen it, we talked it, as you said, music.
Yeah.
You know, they have this energy and they have this focus to get out of a bad situation, and that would have been the end of World War II.
Yeah.
For a lot of them, you know, and I think certainly, definitely the likes of the music that was coming out of the UK at the time was to do with that as well, with the Beatles and the Stones, etc. And it wasn't any different, I suppose, to actors and comedians, etc. You know, just
yeah, I mean, even
I think because it was brand new. I think Saturday Night Live was a new thing. Nothing had been done like that before, and it took a collection of very talented and funny people that, as I said, were brave. I mean, you've got to remember that a lot of this was hardly any preparation, and you saw that.
It must have been. I mean, we've seen it in the trailer, didn't we? I've not seen the film, but just sheer chaos.
Yeah.
But you've got such brilliant comedic, a conglomeration of comedic talent behind the curtain, ready to go. A lot of spontaneity and sort of ad-libbing will take over, and they'll get it right no matter what.
Egos can play a big part in terms of they all want attention, they all want the spotlight, they all want to be the focus. So you try and manage all these comedians in a show.
Do you think of Matthew Perry on Friends? What he was like, he wanted to be the centre of attention. He was the sort of I'm about to say comedic. What the fuck, the comic on the Friends set, and he spoke openly how it was a in-house audience. And he would feel put out when someone else was getting a laugh or the attention was on them, and he'd want to come in and hijack it. That's one fucking guy. Yeah. One guy. Yeah. Imagine a whole cast of unbelievable comedic brains, and they're all vying for attention. That's what made it so brilliant. That's why it's lasted and it stood the test of time. And it's great to see.
It's funny when you see these group of comedians / actors, and like Adam Sandler, you'd be like, everyone that's in his films, you know, have had some kind of stint on SNL. You just know they have, you know. And it's the same with Dan Aykroyd and, you know, John Candy. You just knew that generation. They were very close knit in terms of they'd all work together. They knew each other, what they could bring to the table in terms of if they were maybe doing a film or something like that, they would bring someone in that they knew could do that role. They knew that they could get the laughs and get the chemistry going. You know, in those films. So, as well as obviously egos and flying about and all want to be the centre of attention, I think there was a unity as well when it came to other projects and stuff like that. There was obviously a bond.
Yeah, I mean, you use it as a springboard. That's the sort of foundation of your career. Then you go off and pursue what you want to do as maybe a stand-up or as an actor, director, writer. And proof's in the pudding. The amount of success stories that have come out of Saturday Night Live, going all the way through, it's fucking astonishing. How many got their start there and went on to become fully fledged, highly successful actors and just involved in the industry in general. So great to see them paying tribute, man. Norm MacDonald, I fucking love Norm. Just wish I'd been of an age to appreciate him and a place where I could have appreciated the guy in his absolute pomp, but certainly going back and watching him on YouTube, tremendous, deserves to be, obviously, I don't know, homaged, is that the word? He deserves to be paid tribute. I can't think of the correct English in my mind.
Bear in mind, both of us growing up, we didn't have access to Saturday Night Live. You've got to emphasise that. We didn't have access to that, having council TV for so long.
No.
You couldn't access a lot of the chat shows that we see.
I was too young as well, Stephen. It was like 93, 94, wasn't it?
Even if you were at an age, you wouldn't have been able to see it anyway, to an extent. And it wasn't really, I mean, I just knew these guys as film actors. Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray were Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
They weren't stand-up comedians to me because I wasn't exposed to that. It wasn't until I watched the documentary, or I should say the mockumentary, The Ruttles, All You Need Is Cash,
Yeah.
when I saw the Monty Python people, teaming up with the Saturday Night Live people. Lorne Michaels saw a potential sort of like a thing that they could do together, that could appease both UK and US audiences, and something that they would both enjoy. Because humour, sometimes humour doesn't translate well across countries. It doesn't.
Oh, I mean, the British sense of humour is very distinct.
A class thing at times, but there was something that worked with that documentary, that comedy show or film. It is a film, I suppose, isn't it? But just having the likes of Michael Palin in there, Eric Idle, and then you've got the likes of John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, from the...
Was Cleese in it?
Yeah. No, he wasn't in it, John.
No, I thought that because
I think he might have not been talking to them at that point. Or he might have been doing Fawlty Towers.
You talk about Eagles, fuck me.
Yeah.
Or Fawlty Towers. I mean, Stephen, that's probably our sort of version of the Saturday Night Live thing, but it didn't really spawn out into a TV show. It was more movies and obviously... Yeah. What was a TV show, wasn't it? It did the sort of...
Fawlty Towers was 12 episodes, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm talking about just like those guys together. You had the Ministry of Funny Walks and whatnot. I presume that was from a kind of TV show. I don't know exactly where that was from.
Obviously they did the films, didn't they? Yeah. Obviously with George Harrison, Life of Brian, etc. Holy Grail.
Yeah. So they were great.
But it's so different in many ways though when you think about it. But for some reason they came together for this sort of mockumentary about the Ruttles.
I was just reading about that. And, about the Beatles' reaction to it. And how
Lorne Michaels was good at that. He saw potential in things. I think he might have got I don't know what it was. I think it was a skit that Eric Idle and Neil Innes had done on London Weekend Television or something like that. And they liked it and they wanted to make a bigger sort of
I can understand the interest in that, because also there's comedy involved. They're paying homage, but they're also taking the piss out the Beatles in some of the other aspects. And I
think he was a Beatles fan as well. Yeah. I think he tried to get John Lennon and Paul McCartney on one night, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I think it was like someone offered $150 million or something crazy. I don't think it was that much.
They were going to go down, weren't they?
150,000 or something to go down. Fucking
I think
imagine
John
that.
Paul considered it for 5 minutes.
That would have been unbelievable. That would have been historic. Yeah. But sadly it didn't happen. I presume Yoko walked the door. Or John had some bread to bake. I don't know. Oh dear, that would have been historic. But again, that shows you the pull back then that you had these two guys, not even from America, and they were getting fucking almost drawn onto the show. So that shows you how big it was at that time. I can imagine New York in general just being an incredible place to live if you're artistically gifted, be it in writing, music, anything, acting. I can imagine it is an incredible place to live. But certainly back in the 70s and the 80s and whatnot, when you had all these incredible people.
Early 80s, John, it was a very violent place. I think it was the most violent place.
I mean, it still will be.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you put fucking 16 million people, or however many people stay in New York together in such a small area. They're going to fucking kill each other. It happens. I mean, it happens in Glasgow and there's only 600,000 people in the actual city, official city, sort of lines. Obviously it's 1-2 million in the greater urban area.
500,000 of them are nutcases.
Yeah, exactly. It's very violent here. Imagine New York and then just ratchet up that violence. Shouldn't be a surprise. But no, man, it was great. It was a great tribute from Adam. Really enjoyed it. It showcased what that guy's all about, not just as a comedic act taking the piss, but the sort of more softer side to him. And just his overall talent shining through, the singing, the playing the guitar, and then paying tribute, homage to Chris Farley and MacDonald. Obviously, Chris Farley, could speak about him all night, but just the tragic side to that guy, how he ended up at the end on his own, basically getting used. Just in a really dark place, such a funny, brilliant guy. To be so alone at the end was fucking heartbreaking. So, I mean, he deserves his sort of day in the sun. He deserves to be remembered. And it's great to see that Adam's a brilliant fucking guy, man. I remember watching him with Brad Pitt doing a sort of actor-on-actor thing. And Brad just taking the full 40 minutes to just fucking gush over Adam and give him his moment and speak about how great a performance it was. You could see how uncomfortable he was. Because he's a genuinely fucking good guy and genuinely down to earth. So I'm not surprised the guys did that, and he's genuinely been choked up because he was good friends with those two. But it was fucking great. I need to now go and watch all the videos linked to this.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same, John. I watched the Paul McCartney Golden Slumbers sort of medley, and I watched Paul Simon and Sabrina Carpenter, is it?
Yeah.
Do Homeward Bound, and both of them, both Sabrina and Paul were fantastic.
Yeah.
Paul McCartney, that is, he's 83 this year, I think, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he's still doing his thing. You've got to give him credit for that, I suppose. But some of the notes he just can't reach anymore. And I was actually looking at, I think Rusty is one of the
dark-haired guy. Yeah.
I can't remember his name. But I was thinking, why are you not helping him out here with these, harmonies, and try and mask it a little bit, because it did sound very.
Was it a sort of close quarters acoustic kind of set though? Because I think in those kind of sets he's screwed.
On the Saturday Night Live stage, yeah.
Yeah, I think in the sort of low key set he's screwed. I think in like a stadium setup where he's touring now, they can hide a lot of the deficiencies of his voice now with the likes of Rusty and whatnot, and even the drummer back in the day. I don't know if it's the same drummer. He had the big fucking heavy geezer. He was a great drummer, but he could sing, and they used to fill out the voice, much like what Macca was doing back in the day for Lennon and those sort of tracks we spoke about the other day. Yeah. They can help, obviously, with the sound guys in these venues. They can take some of those issues away, but I think in a low key setting, I think he's fucked. And look, people just have to accept it. The guy's, like you said, he's 83 this year. He's an older guy. Your voice, you as a person become frailer and weaker. You're withering away as you get older, plain and simple. Unless you're taking testosterone replacement or whatnot, you're just some sort of freak of nature. You become frailer and weaker. Your vocal cords aren't what they were. You've just got to accept when you get to that age, you're not going to be hitting
Paul Simon's voice is still got it to an extent. I mean, he's roughly about the same age as Paul McCartney and obviously Sabrina Carpenter. Both of their voices together seem to merge really well. You said it before we came on. There's something about a man and a woman thing together. There's something really harmonious about that. But he did say that he was on Saturday Night Live in 1976 singing the same song with George Harrison, and Sabrina said, "I wasn't even alive then."
96? And she was born in 97, wasn't she?
And neither was my parents.
She ripped the piss out of Colbert. She was on Colbert, and she's got a sort of brilliant little personality where she'll have a little pot shot, then do a little laugh and look at the camera or whatnot, and they let her get away with it. But she took the piss. She said something about Colbert being a couple of generations older than her, not even a generation, a couple, and he was laughing. But you could tell it was a painful one, but he let it go. Yeah, she was born in 99, holy fuck. I forget how young she actually is. My God, man, she's only 25. That's fucking crazy. I still can't believe Barry Keoghan, I spoke about that as well, can't believe Barry Keoghan allowed that one to get away. That's a bad move from him. What was he thinking? Deary me, Barry. What an idiot. But what a fucking idiot. But it is what it is. I'm sure he'll get songs. I mean, I think he's already had a couple of songs sung about him. Bedchem and whatnot are the ones that spring to mind for me. Who's that cute guy with the scruffy fucking, or the white jacket and the thick accent? Come on, it's Barry Keoghan. Talking about Barry loves a white jacket, he's got a thick accent. But I digress. Shall we move on to the next topic? Stephen, what's your thoughts on Adam Sandler paying tribute, providing an SNL 50 highlight? People saying it's in the top 3, potentially. I think of this particular show, not of all time. What's your thoughts on it? Thoughts on him paying homage to Chris Farley and Norm MacDonald in particular, nearly choking up when he mentioned their names. Share your thoughts down below if you've got anything to say about that. But we shall move on to the next topic. GTA 6 will come to PC in early 2026. Not surprising news for me, Stephen. And to be honest with you, big part of the reason of why I bought a console again after a long time not really getting on the console, because I knew this was coming, and this is one of the most anticipated games for well over a decade now, and I wanted to make sure I was on a platform that got it ASAP, not just for the single player but for the shenanigans that's going to be happening multiplayer. It's one of the most anticipated games for me, and I knew, being primarily a PC gamer prior to that I would have to wait. And don't get me wrong, when it finally drops, the modders and all of that, what they'll be able to do, it will be fucking levels above. Yeah. But they always seem to make PC gamers wait an insane amount of time, which 10, 15, 20 years ago I could have understood, because it was completely different sort of, I don't know what you'd even call it, framework. It's not even the right terminology. I'm not a fucking expert in games, but they weren't the same kind of setups. Consoles were very distinct beasts, entities, and PCs were PCs. But the line's blurred now. The PS5, the Xbox Series X and S, they're like mini PCs in a sense. They've got motherboards and chips, and very similar. They're not as distinct an entity as what they used to be.
You used to see the glaring differences, John, particularly in the 1990s. I remember when Doom came out on the PC, and this game was phenomenal on the PC. It was, and there was this release, I think, in the early 1990s for Sega. I think it was I can't even remember what it's called. It was some fucking monstrosity, like a mushroom, a black mushroom, and they released Doom on it, and it was terrible. It was just, I was like, I can't believe how wrong they've got this. But then it's all to do with capability, and it's all to do with technology as well. But over the years, John, over the last 30 years, they're becoming more in line with each other in terms of software and hardware. Yeah. And there's not much difference. Obviously, with a PC, you can mod it a bit more than you can a console. Once you get a console, you're stuck with what's in it.
But I mean, they only optimise it to a certain level, and at some point, it's ever diminishing returns. You can go and spend £15,000-20,000 in some cases on a fucking ridiculous, mega future-proofed PC.
It's quite a longer life on a PC though than you would in a console, though. But
you're not going to get much better.
There is obviously a dead end eventually with the sort of progress of performance and look. But I'm not surprised either, John. I think we've covered GTA 6 quite extensively in our news shows over the last year or so, and we did talk about the PC one will come probably about 3-6 months after the console release. I don't think we've got an official date for the console yet, but I think it'll
it's the end of this year.
It's always October, November, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
they're saying fall 2025.
You're absolutely right. I think for the PC, I mean, a lot of people will be looking forward to that version for mods, for modding the game and customising it even further than you can in the console one. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the console version brings to the table in terms of personality, in terms of editing tools, if they're going to have any.
Well, it's funny you should mention that, Stephen, because I'm literally reading this just now, and the first thing that came to mind was Halo Reach, where you had the freedom to, and I'll try and move this over, to sort of do your own game modes. And one of the greatest things that ever was created on Halo for me was the zombie mode, where you became infected and you were gave the sort of covenant, I think it was, like sword, and you had hyper strength and mobility. But you could, if you were still alive, you obviously get guns, you could one-shot them if you got it right. It was a brilliant mode, but it was a custom mode designed by players. It wasn't something that Bungie back in the day had deliberately developed. It was a fucking idea of the player base. And we're seeing here a report that Rockstar have been in discussions with top Roblox and Fortnite creators, as well as dedicated GTA content creators, about the potential to create custom experiences inside the upcoming game. It would allow creators to modify the game's environment and assets to bring their own intellectual property and potentially their brand sponsors into GTA's virtual sandbox. That'd be fucking brilliant. That would just...
Roblox is a good example of that, John.
Yeah.
I can remember when Roblox first came over a decade ago, it was a long time ago, but the point being that, you know, they had this option of giving access to creators and designers, but they could come in, custom make their own platforms and have their own advertising in it to make money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something I've not seen Roblox in a long time, but it's certainly something that a lot of younger, I would say teenagers probably would have, and it's a good way of, you know, learning sort of games development side of things as well.
Yeah.
And you're going to make money out of it as well, so it's a good thing. Whether you can do that in GTA is another thing. It's a bit more complex, isn't it? Obviously, the tools being used to create. I don't know where this one's based. I don't know if is it Florida or something? Is it like sort of Miami?
Yeah.
The way we had one of the previous versions, Vice City, was it? I don't know. I don't really know how that would work with sort of freelance content creators or developers getting into, you know, creating these worlds in their own sandbox. I take it would be their own private server. I don't think it would be something that would be open to the public, surely.
Well, I mean, with Halo, it was opened. You had custom game modes you went in, and you could play like the zombie, you could do different things. And people loved it. It was one of the most popular things. You could go in and modify the maps and do different things, and it gave freedom. And what that did was it lengthened the enjoyment of the game for a whole host of people. And I think there's still people playing Reach to this day.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can only be a positive thing. You can have the official release online like they did with GTA 5 for the best part of a decade, giving you the sort of missions and sort of, I don't know, heists and whatnot. You can have that, but then you can have an alternate where interesting and different things are being explored. That would give variety to the game. And that's what we need. We need to have more interaction with the fan base or the player base. You need to have more interaction with environments in the game. This is one of the things that this game's been crying out for multiple releases now.
I can't remember if it was Grand Theft Auto 5 that had modes where you could get into like an arena where everyone would have a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Everybody would just be blowing each other up. That's something missing from GTA 6. Something really, I don't know, soulless about GTA 5. Something really soulless about it. I think it might have been GTA 4 I was talking about with the arena stuff with the rocket launchers, etc. But there was a lot of good things missing from GTA 5 that were so good in GTA 4, and I would like to see them brought back.
The biggest one was voice chat. The anonymous voice chat was a killer for me. I fucking loved it, and I know it was something I think it was in... What was it in? Because I know Lemmy might have been Fortnite. I don't think it was anonymous, because he was just winding people up, period, and didn't give a shit. But GTA 4 back in the day was just it was a Wild West. It was fucking brilliant. Unless you actually phoned someone and they answered in the game, you had no idea who was talking on the mic. It was brilliant. You could go on and put... And as someone who does multiple accents, does the posh English gentleman accent, you know, there's disease rhinoceros puzzles fucking chasing me in this motorcycle, I'm going to hunt this fucker down. You could do things like that, different accents, put on a Scouse accent and all of this. Just, that brought its own enjoyment, interacting with people. Hours and hours of arguing with people, putting on different accents. They thought it was someone different. You're backing them up against yourself, and they think they're arguing with. And it was just fucking great, man. It was brilliant. And I know Lemmy, who we keep talking about, brilliant comedian from Glasgow in Scotland, used to love that as well. That's something that's been missing in that release there. There is no real voice chat, period.
And there might have been a possibility that we actually played alongside Lemmy at one point.
I can imagine. Oh, God.
I think it's a strong possibility.
Oh, yeah, we were on it all the fucking time, man. And I mean, he's probably fucking putting on an English accent back today because he's very good at them. But that's what's missing. You just need to fucking... I mean, I don't know if there's a scope for that now. I think certainly with Fortnite, there's voice chat enabled and you can interact. I don't recall ever having a voice chat option on GTA 5 on the multiplayer. I don't recall it.
A lot of games, John, online, and particularly Call of Duty, had in-voice in the forum before a game loaded, and then it would just be your own team you heard after that. You wouldn't hear everyone.
Man, I would fucking...
It's quite sophisticated for its day when you think about it.
I would love DBD Dead by Daylight, you have voice chat. Oh my God. It'd be the greatest thing ever if the killer could interact with the survivors. Oh my Lord. The elevation of enjoyment would reach fucking God tier levels. Because I just love that 2v8 mode just now and taking the absolute piss out of killers in it. If they could interact with you, oh my fucking God, it'd be the greatest game ever. Genuinely. That's what we need. We need more voice sort of options in games again. Like back in the day when multiplayer was in its infancy and consoles anyway on the likes of Xbox Live and whatnot. But Stephen, I mean, this doesn't surprise me with the PC. The PC always gets the short end of the stick when it comes to these big sort of, what do they call them? What's the name of it? There's a name for the sort of, I can't remember. The top games released, there's a specific fucking title for these big, like massive budget games that come out. I can't remember the title, it doesn't fucking matter. But they always get the short end of the stick. AAA release, I think that's what it is. They're optimised for consoles. The largest fan base or sort of player base and the largest amount of money to be reamed out of the players' pockets is to be found on PS5 or Xbox. The PC lags behind, so they get the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise me. We've seen it with so many other games. I mean, fucking.
The irony of the whole thing is that, you know, eventually the PC game is the far superior game.
Well, it is, yeah. If you've got the actual system for it. I mean, mine's is. I upgraded my PC a couple of years ago, but fucking antiquated now. That's the problem. You just can't keep up. It constantly it evolves all the time, and it's so fucking expensive. I spent like guts of £2,000 upgrading my fucking PC, and it still runs, and it can run games on Quad HD, not 4K. But I deliberately made that decision because I ain't got a 4K monitor, so I had no fucking interest in running it on 4K. But it's just never ending, putting your hand in your pocket, upgrading. So I understand the simplicity of console gaming, to be honest with you, because it's just there, it's optimised, it's 4K, and you get on with it. And just so many fucking myths as well. But this is another rabbit hole you could get down, like the whole bollocks about refresh rate. I've got a 240 refresh rate monitor. I can't fucking tell the difference between that and the 60 Hz TV that I'm playing on just now. It's fucking nonsense. Bullshit. I'm still getting destroyed by people, man. Multiplayer on the PC. I've fucking all this stuff. One of the best mouses on earth. People are still fucking shooting me.
We had an official full trailer of GTA 6.
No,
we've not.
No, we haven't. Incredible. Yeah. We have not, as of yet, that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
Which is.
I'm nervous about that.
I think it will. I think it will come out. I think we'll get it probably in the next couple of months. Yeah, I think it'll be summer, and then it'll announce the release date. I think they know, Stephen, that they don't have to promote this game because it promotes itself. The hype is there.
Yeah.
And you just know it'll be revolutionary in terms of the mechanics of the game, what they're going to. I think they'll utilise AI. I really do think they'll utilise AI.
I'm thinking back to day one, 2013, trying to go online, and it's going to be a fucking bottleneck.
That should be better this time. That should be better. I think, but I mean, you think back in those days how basic sort of multiplayer lobbies and whatnot were, and how basic the internet was. I mean, if you went back to those times, you'd be fucking crying into your pillow at the speeds. I've got like 1,000 fucking. I've got 1 meg internet, and I know you've got very quick internet as well, Stephen. I mean, there shouldn't be an issue now. There's enough developers like Fortnite and fucking what was Roblox and other big. Obviously, is it Infinity Ward that do Ubisoft that do Call of Duty? They have got incredible knowledge on how to cater to massive.
Yeah, I mean, they learn from. I don't want to say the mistakes, but that was a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not like it was a new thing at that point, but it was just one of those things. You and I think we tried for a couple of days and then we just left it for about a week.
I remember it well. Lamar, I think, was the character who took you through the tutorial for online, and I think I did it 5 times. And I was fucking, no wonder I'm a slaphead now, because I was ripping the hair out of my head even back then. I had much more hair back then. That's one thing I would like to get back and get again. It's the hair. Get on the minoxidil. Saved the air before it ran up my fucking forehead. But I always had a large forehead anyway, so it makes no difference. At least I'm like a cue ball, so I can live with it. But man, I'm buzzing for this. I really am. I'm buzzing for this game. I cannot wait for it to come out. Really looking forward to seeing what sort of innovations they've brought to it. And getting back again to what we discussed the other day and earlier on in this stream, Stephen, about comedy and pop cultural references and not pulling your punches. It's something Rockstar have been renowned for. Satirising and just straight up reaming and molligating modern day figures and businesses and making references to everything and anything and not giving a shit. I do not want to see a fucking castrated version of GTA. It has to be completely balls to the wall crazy, allowed to do its thing. Fuck the people that get offended. They can just bugger off and play another game. Doesn't matter. They have to be allowed to do their thing. I do not want to see this getting tarnished like other things, films, TV shows, everything. This has to be.
I think that's what made it what it was, though, John. It was as controversial as it might be to some people, and some of the people had their way, didn't they? I think Rockstar had released a game in the early 2000s which was banned, Manhunt or something. Can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, because some little fucking arsehole killed a kid at school or something, and they blamed it on that because he was playing that.
The school bully one as well, I think there was one, wasn't there?
Yeah, that was brilliant, that game, yeah.
But I mean, they've always had their critics, Rockstar, and it's they don't. I've never seen them fold once in terms of what they're trying to put out in their product. Either, as you said, you either like it and you enjoy it, or if you don't like that, then stay away from it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
No?
And I find it refreshing that
they'll not change their ways. I doubt it very much. It'll not be watered down, this version, in any sense. If anything, it might be the other way. I think a lot of it will be very tongue-in-cheek, and a lot of the humour will be very underhanded as well. Very, if you know, you know. So
that's the way it's always been, though.
Yeah, it's just it's good. They've got a good writing team in terms of scripts and themes and tones, as well as obviously the sort of technical side of these games. They've got a good team that really make these characters stand out and they're fully formed. That you mentioned it, Lamar, Tony, what was it, Tommy Vercetti?
Tommy Vercetti, yeah.
Just these characters, Claude from GTA 3.
Vice City, you had Lance Vance, who was fucking great, Just all these great characters that pop and remain.
Cal, the San Andreas.
Trevor.
So, Trevor from GTA 5.
Yeah, mental.
And Nico Bellic.
And with it being set in Florida is renowned for being a bit of a crackpot haven, where they're just fucking absolutely batshit crazy. I mean, you could set it in Texas and it would probably be the same thing, but different. But Florida is renowned for being full of mentalists, of a whole different, variety. So you couldn't really set it in a better place.
The trailer nailed it.
Oh yeah, just fucking nutbars. Yeah. Absolute nutbars. Stephen, I want to see hurricanes and stuff like that coming in. This is another thing that we've seen in Red Dead that sort of, what would you call it? I don't know what you'd even call it. Not real time, but evolving weather. Where it could be sunny, then you'd see it clouding over, then you get thunderstorms and you get different weather conditions, snow. I want to, with it being set in Florida, certainly online, you want to see like fucking tornadoes and hurricanes coming in. I mean, that'd just be dynamite, wouldn't it? Last for like an hour, you're just getting fucking destroyed trying to drive cars and planes, and you're getting flung all over the place. That'd be brilliant. But what you say is also, and what I say is, I'm reading another article. I mean, it's not really about the content of the game, but you've got ex-Blizzard president Mike Ibarra, I think his name is, saying that Rockstar don't give a shit. They do what they want. They don't even listen to their publishers. So I hope that's something that carries over to the actual game, and I hope we don't see it getting neutered and we end up with some half-arsed, really, I don't know, watered-down version of a classic gaming franchise, because we've seen it with so many other things, these panty weters. fucking moaning about being offended. Well, tough shit. Life's about getting offended. Got to grow some minerals and get on with it. But look, speaking about getting on with it, shall we move on to this final topic very briefly?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on GTA 6? Are you a PC gamer primarily? Are you crying into your pillow over the shock announcement that it'll not come out until early 2026? There's nothing shocking about it. And realistically, the way this is going, we'll be lucky to get it on the console in 2025 as well. And even if it does, it'll be late 25. So you're talking like 3-4 months of a difference. There's so many good games on the PC, you'll not miss it. That's what it is. Share your thoughts down below if you've got anything to say. Moving on to this final topic, I says in the bottom there, Oasis receive a big nomination. It's not just Oasis, it's Joy Division as well. Obviously Rock and Roll. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Stephen, I'm surprised that it's taken this long for certainly Joy Division. I mean, Oasis have been around a little bit less at a time, haven't they, than Joy Division? They were an 80s group.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's taken this long.
Obviously reformed into New Order, John, but obviously the argument remains the same. They've been around a lot longer than Oasis. And I mean, I don't know what the scenario was. I don't really know the full sort of qualifications other than it has to be over 25 years old, the band. Apart from that, I don't know other conditions there is. Perhaps maybe it's because the band reformed and started again as New Order after obviously Ian Curtis, I think.
Died, the lead singer for Joy Division. But,
yeah,
I mean, this kind of makes me consider that perhaps maybe Liam and Noel knew about this before, obviously, their announcement that they were doing these reunion gigs this year. And perhaps maybe this is one of the reasons that they are doing the reunion gigs, so they're mentally prepared for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame performance.
You seen that Liam Gallagher tweet? I love Liam. This is why I love Liam. He capitalises wankers and then says ever. And the next tweet capitalises that. I just love a guy. He knows what he's doing. But Steve, look at these nominations, man. What the?
Tweet after that?
No, what is this?
Somebody questioned it, and look at his reply.
What are you going to do if you win? Obviously go and say it's the best thing ever. Yeah. But I mean, look at these nominations. What the fuck? What? Mariah Carey? Rock and Roll? Are you fucking having a laugh? Outcast? I love Outcast, man. I grew up with Outcast. Miss Jackson and Roses and Hey Yow and brilliant songs like that. But they're not fucking rock and roll, man. They're not. I don't know what's happened to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, whether they've just became this sort of neutered, glorified like music Hall of Fame. But in my mind, when I think of rock and roll, I think of like Led Zeppelin, The Who. I don't even know if I would class the Beatles as rock and roll, but they did do like rock and roll stuff like Revolution and Helter Skelter. But bands like that, the Sex Pistols, and that's fucking rock and roll to me. It's not fucking Coldplay.
But most of these bands are quoted are probably already in, John.
No, they are. Yeah, they are. Yeah. We just don't fucking put any more in. Because if rock and roll's dead, then it's fucking dead. That's it. It remains a Hall of Fame. We just don't put any old shite into like, football Hall of Fames. We don't admit them just because there's no more good players left. If they're not good enough, they don't get fucking in. It's the same with the NFL. You've got first ballot Hall of Famers, and then you've got lesser ones that have to wait a little bit longer. Soundgarden, the White Stripes. I mean, I like. Yeah, are they rock and roll?
They've been around for 40 years as well. Cyndi Lauper's in there. I know you love Cyndi. I know you can quote at least 5 of her songs, John. But likes of Mariah Carey in there.
Mariah Carey.
Don't know who Mana is. Or Fish.
The White Stripes. I mean, that's fucking rock and roll, isn't it? To be fair, it is. It's kind of rocky. I love Jack White. That is his name, isn't it? Jack White. It is. By the way, he's released one of the greatest fucking amps that's ever been made. He did a collaboration with Fender. This amp, see if I could play an amp like, unmolested, just not give a fuck about neighbours, I would buy this amp. I would literally spend the money, just the looks of it. Double sort of speakers, you can split them. It's just unbelievable. You talk about innovation. What that guy does with guitars, some of his guitars that he's worked with Fender on, just, I love Jack White, so he could go in there, no problem. But realistically, you're talking White Stripes, Oasis, Soundgarden, bro. I mean, I don't know enough of Soundgarden. Bad Company. What is Bad Company again? Am I blank on them? Yeah, I think I do know them, to be fair. But most Joy Division, obviously. Are they rock and roll?
I would say, I'm actually surprised Billy Idol's not been in that. I mean, the guy's been around for the best part of 5 decades.
Yeah.
And but some of these obviously.
Joe Cocker.
Massive hits.
Joe Cocker. What did he do again?
He was a sort of gravelly voice crooner, sort of. He did Little Help from My Friends.
Yeah.
His own sort of interpretation.
Yeah, I fucking hate that version.
I don't particularly like it. I prefer
Fucking
Ringo's
bollocks.
version, but
That's a mangled fucking version. We
I
didn't
know
need
you
another.
obviously like Marty Fellows version, John, but yeah.
I'm sorry. I was talking about this last night. The only fucking act who should be getting remakes of his songs is Bob Dylan, because look, I love Bob, but even he'd admit he's not the greatest singer that ever walked the face of the earth. So if you've got the Animals or Jimi Hendrix or the Byrds want to do a remix and it's they're sort of more, I don't know, vocally popular. I can't think of the right wording. Better vocals. If they want to do a better sort of vocal version of a Bob Dylan number, brilliant. The Beatles could all sing. Even Ringo could sing.
On, in terms of
Don't need to
those
remake a
two
Beatles
bands
song.
I've obviously highlighted in terms of Joy Division / New Order and Oasis, I just want to see them go up on stage and do their speeches. Particularly New Order, because I don't know in speaking terms where they're at, because I think there was a fallout.
Well, this is the best thing, isn't it? With this rock and roll nonsense. We've seen this with the Beatles. Fucking Paul McCartney didn't turn up. A lot of the times they're not even on talking terms. And they want to kill each other. I mean, we've seen this, but I don't think they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Maybe they are, but Simon and Garfunkel, when you had that awkward... Are they in there, aye? Yeah.
I would say so. I think they're all obviously okay now, but I think...
but in the 70s when Lennon turned up, it was so awkward.
Yeah.
So that's the best part. I mean, Oasis obviously are back in talking terms now, so that'll not be as awkward, but could you imagine them both going, 10 years ago? They'd have been fucking wanting to kill each other. It'd have been great.
No, wouldn't have turned up.
No, he wouldn't have.
They wouldn't have turned up.
I think Liam wouldn't have turned up. I think Noel would love this shit. This is his kind of thing. I was watching a video with Noel, a shot, how he likes to go out and socialise every Thursday in the West End in London with his friends. And then it cuts to a photograph of him and Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl's not your friend, man. He probably gets on with you, but he's not a fucking friend. He stays in California.
Isn't he? He's famous for name dropping. I was out with Morrissey, or I was out with, your man that was the guitarist with the Smiths.
Oh God, why am I blanking his name? Terrible. Squire. No, it's not Squire.
Squire's the Stone Roses.
Stone Roses. Fucking hell.
But you know what I mean? He's forever doing that, and I'm like, if you're not actually got any real mates. You know what I mean?
That's winding me out. I can't remember his name. I don't want to Google it. Holy fuck! I just bought. To be fair, he is friends with him though. He's gave him so many guitars. It's fucking insane. But just legendary guitars. John. What's his fucking name? That's annoying. I need to Google it. Oh my God. Johnny fucking Marr. Terrible, man. The Rickenbacker, the fucking Strats, everything, the Casino. See the guitars he gave Noel? Oh my God, man. The guy he said that many great guitars passed through his hands.
Did you say that he was out with Dave Grohl?
He was out with Dave Grohl, yeah.
They two weren't, Noel was panning him last year.
Was he? That must have been earlier then. It was like 2003. Because Dave had the mental sort of like 2002, 3, like goatee thing, you know, and he was a lot younger. I'll try and find the image. I'll see if I've got it. Dave's got like a beer bottle hanging out his mouth. It's that one there. That's not 2003, I'm talking shit. That's probably about 10 years ago, 15 years ago. Open this up and I'll bring it up. Look at that image, yeah. That's probably about 2014, 2012.
That looks like Noel from
2000?
2000.
Yeah, you think so? Yeah. See, Dave said that haircut for so long now, I've lost the plot. He said the beard for so long now, he's not really changed the appearance up.
I would put that down to any time between 2000 and 2002.
Yeah, yeah. I was looking at Nolan thinking that. Yeah,
Because it all looked like round about the time of the Hindu times.
Yeah, he had kind of longer hair.
Yeah. And sunburns.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, that's a long time ago. He's fell out with him clearly since then, but that's no for you. No love's falling out with people.
All in and out with everybody done.
Yeah. But no, listen, I'm glad, to be fair, I'm glad that they've received this. They deserve it. Hopefully they do win it or get nominated and get... I don't know how it works. I don't know how the process works. I'm not going to say here. They've been nominated. I presume it's a foregone conclusion. They're going to get put in. Revolutionary band, Stephen. Zeitgeist band. They defined the 90s in the United Kingdom and probably in Europe, everywhere except from the United States, really. A legendary, brilliant rock and roll band. And with Liam in particular, just personified rock and roll lead sort of singer. Energy, the way they lived their life, into drugs, alcohol, everything. Full shebang, full kit and caboodle. So if any particular band deserves to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, then it's them. So, fully deserving. I'm not a big enough fan of Joy Division or New Order to speak about them. That's not really my era. I don't think it's really my kind of music. I'd need to listen. I presume I know their songs, but...
Yeah. You're well done.
Yeah.
But they're
not really my...
totally different fish to Oasis, yeah.
But no, they deserve it.
Same
deserve
city,
it.
but different music.
But did I not say that at one point? You deserve it or something? I can't remember. I said something like that. Some corny shite back in the day. Can't remember the context, but I do remember saying something fucking ridiculously corny. But anyway, I digress. What's your thoughts? That's going to round it up. What's your thoughts on the subjects, the things we discussed on the show/stream? I like to say that just to keep the tongue twisting up, fresh. Make sure the tongue's in full sort of fettle. I don't know what that fucking means. I says it now. Still high as a kite on paracetamol and ibuprofen, so been a lot of gibbering going on in here. Can never ascertain how you say that fucking word, so I say both versions. Shout your thoughts down below about Adam Sandler paying homage to two late friends and just about everyone else that was involved in Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary edition. Thoughts on GTA 6 not releasing on the PC until early next year. A year away for the poor PC master race folk. Finally, Oasis, Joy Division / New Order potentially getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Anything you want to share about that, about anything we've touched upon on this show, share it down below in the comments section on the old YouTube. Do the same thing, subscribe incidentally on, because you can't do the same thing, you can't comment over on Twitch unless you're doing it when it's live. Subscribe, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyes on YouTube. Follow notifications button over on Twitch to do the exact same and see the exact same thing on a different platform over there. And all that's left to be said is until the next time, thank you for watching us and bye-bye.